Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. Today is Easy Language Answered, and we're going to have the privilege of having John Bruch with us in just a moment. Thank you for your support of the Masterclass. And if you've been with us for some time, you know that this class is designed to answer any questions or just talk about Easy Language in general. We feel that learning a little bit of Easy Language can take your TradeStation platform to that next level, especially because you have the ability to turn your own trading ideas into something that TradeStation can understand and something that you can, utilize on the platform. So let's go ahead and talk about some things today. It is December 1st. Yeah, John is in there. So thank you, John, for joining us today as well. We're going to pass the microphone over to him in just a moment. I just need to go through some disclosures before we continue. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that we talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone, and it should only be done with risk capital. And that past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. If we do pull up, the strategy performance report, just be aware that those numbers don't mean that it'll happen the same going forward, okay? If somebody needs a little bit more information on these disclosures, go to the link right here on this PowerPoint slide, www.tradestation.com/important-information. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. Let me go ahead and introduce John Bruch to everyone. John, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. So
How's
yeah,
everything? Yep.
everything is very, very good. So this is like the first time that we are doing Easy Language Answered outside of the channel. So this is more like a webinar or event. And I want to appreciate everyone's understanding and patience as we go through the transition of all the education assets that we have or that are currently on You Can Trade over to TradeStation. So just look out for some announcements that are going to be coming up in regards to that, but I'll make sure that everyone is aware of what's happening once we move over to TradeStation. So John, welcome to class. And let me go ahead and stop my share. And at the same time, I'm going to give everyone the ability to speak if they want to do so. Let me turn everybody's microphones on. I do appreciate if you leave those microphones muted. That way we don't get any background noise. So let's go ahead and get this conversation started. So John, I know that last time that we were together, we talked through a couple of exercises. I haven't received any questions from anyone. I'm not sure if you've received any. Did we?
No, I haven't.
So we have nothing pending today or nothing that we wanted to show today. So let's open up the floor for Q&A and see what type of questions are coming through or any comments that you guys may have. And we'll take those questions right now. All right. Let's see.
Hello.
Hello, is this David?
Yes.
Hey, David, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. What's your question?
Good. I had a question about seeing about putting a like a box around, say, the high and low of a candle.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if you could help out with that.
Okay. You're looking to draw a box or maybe lines or specifically a box around the candle?
Lines is fine.
Okay. Is that
Yep.
something that we can probably show in class, John? Or is it we have some built-in studies that do that, right?
Yeah, let me share my screen. Do you do we mean a line, a horizontal line at the high and low? Or I guess I'm not sure exactly.
Yes, I would say a line at the high and low of a and then I'm able to change which candles that is on.
Okay. So yes, probably the easiest way to do that is, let me change, since we're using the term candle, let me kind of change my display here. Can you guys see this chart? Okay.
We see the Windows background. We don't see train.
Oh, you
station.
do? I'm sorry, I shared the wrong screen here. Let me change that. Thank you, Jesus, because I would have been talking about. All right, so let me remove, I've got a couple studies on here, so let me remove these. And let's just say, let's just take a look at custom 2 lines and see if it does what we're looking for. So the built-in study is custom 2 lines, and you guys may or may not be familiar with this study, but all it really does is plot 2 lines at the values specified by 2 Easylanguage expressions. So we can make these expressions something like, let's say we wanted the high of 3 bars ago and the low, I'm abbreviating here, you can use H and L as the abbreviations for high and low in Easylanguage. So if we just wanted those as our formulae here, we could do something like that. And then I guess I would need to change the scaling here. So I'll set the scaling to same axis as underlying data. And okay, but we want horizontal lines at the high and low of n bars ago. Is that right?
I think so. Yes, I think that's the intention here.
Okay.
So that creates a channel, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So I guess we would probably, the easiest way, I'm trying to think of a way that doesn't move along as new bars form. So we're saying we always want the high, let's just pick this big red one here. We always want the high and low of this guy. Is like maybe that guy, no matter what happens as new bars form, right? So it's not that we want the high and low of some number of bars to go. It's that we want the high and low of a specific bar. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And David, if you can clarify, is it a number of bars ago that you want to look at the high and the low of, or is it a specific date?
I was unmuting. Is say that like that, I guess the some bars ago, I would say that high that's like maybe 5 bars ago. Yeah, right where
Okay.
yes.
Okay, because that makes it easier, right, John? Just to
Yes, I mean,
bars ago, yeah.
right. There's a couple ways, right? So probably if we want a horizontal line at price indicator is probably the easiest.
Mhm.
And then we'll just go ahead and put in the price as a value. So in this case, if it was 5 bars ago, that one I think we just saw was 147.99. So there we have a horizontal line right at that level, and we could do the same thing at the low. So 147.85, I guess, is that what it was? Yeah. So then we can, we could just put the same study again and set it to 147.85.
Can you, like, using these same, line at price study, can you reference the high of 3 bars ago too, instead of entering or inputting a specific price?
You could, but it'll have the same problem as we're seeing here with the custom 2 lines, in that is new bars form. You have a new value, so then it's going to move, right?
So you'll have those. Okay,
Does that make sense? Yeah.
I see.
Otherwise, you have to you get into the problem of having to specify the date and time. Now, you could do some clever stuff here if you wanted to get into a little programming. You could develop a little tool that it'd be fairly straightforward to do that. Just when you clicked on a bar would put would move these horizontal lines to the bar that you clicked on. That kind of thing is fairly straightforward. I mean,
Okay.
once you're into objects.
And you would suggest that David in this case follows up on the forums for modifications of that extent?
Sure. Yeah, let me open up the development environment. What I think I don't have anything immediately available that uses the necessary classes, but I'll show you the
You know what,
Sorry.
John? No, I was just gonna say that that line at price that we have in there, if you put in like the high of 5 bars ago, it maintains a horizontal line.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say let's take a look and see what the other thing is. You could lock the lines. So once you put it in there, I think you could modify those two drawing objects, the horizontal lines that are created by the study, and lock them. So the problem will be really the next time you open the chart, I think. So if you were to close the workspace and reopen it, then it's going to say, oh, high of 5 bars ago. Oh, that's a different value than you had previously. So it won't be there permanently, so to speak. But it may stay there, during the session. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the reference point would be different. So 5 bars ago, it always starts from the current bar, right? So as new bars build, I would expect the indicator to recalculate, right?
If you put in a normal indicator, yes, so we could, like the custom 2 lines shows you what happens. So this one's doing high of and low of 3 bars ago. So I did custom 2 lines. And so as you can see, every time we get a new bar, the value changes.
So if you do something similar with line at price, could you probably try it here and see what type of behavior we get?
Well, we could, but it may maintain itself, as you say, through the session. So but then when you close and reopen the workspace, it's going to move.
Okay, which I don't think I don't think it's a big problem, as long as
That's fine. If that's what you want, that's okay. Yeah, you could do it that way. Like,
as long as the user is aware that, when you open up the next day, it'll recalculate and say, okay, 5 bars ago, it's a different bar. So now I have to draw the lines on a different place, right?
Right, that's right. So here, I've set it for high and low of 3 bars ago, I guess.
Okay, this is a 1-minute bar, so we can wait.
Yeah, there's a little teeny bar right here for him. So
yeah, we can wait until the next bar opens and see if this recalculates. What you're saying is that this indicator is designed to not recalculate on the next bar?
I'm going to check that. Let's take a quick look. It does update the value, but I would have to take a close look. This code's a little complicated. So it does move. So it should move. But I went to attend. There it goes. See, it moved.
Okay. Yes.
So it's going to keep moving along, and that's not, I guess, what he wants.
Yeah, I guess that defeats the purpose of drawing the lines, because you want them to be fixed at a specific.
Correct. That's why you end up having to set them to a point, a specific, constant value.
I see. So, yeah, David, just to recap, I guess the easiest way would be to use line at price, which is built into the platform and enter the specific high price and low price so that those lines are fixed at those values. If you want, a little bit more flexibility, like entering a date or a time, that would have to be written in Easylanguage, right, John? But it's doable.
Yes. Or again, to me, the whole question really boils down to how frequently you're going to change them. Because if you're doing it, I don't know, once a day, I'd probably just go here and go to the drawing tools, grab the horizontal line, put it wherever I want, and maybe lock it, set this locked property, and then I'm done for the day. If I'm moving it along every so many minutes or that kind of thing, I'd probably develop a little tool that used a click event.
Okay.
So I was headed over here to the dictionary where I was just going to show you that this is a class you'd end up using. They can help you in the support forum, but it'd be this charting host. You create a charting host and then handle this, the click event in the charting host. So chart element click is the name of the event.
Okay. Yeah, pretty cool. Yes. So David, hopefully that points you, in the right direction. And if it doesn't, just let us know and we'll answer any other questions you may have. Phil is submitting a question here in the chat. Let's go to this second question, which I think is related to what we were talking about. He would like to highlight the high and the low of the last 3 bars on the chart using daily. Could he maybe use a price channel for that, the price channel study, and look back 3 bars that keeps track of the highest high and the lowest low of that period?
Yes. So the way we configured this custom 2 lines, if I'm understanding correctly what he's asking, is he on a daily chart? If you're on the daily chart, then it's just the high of 3 bars ago and the low of 3 bars ago. But if you're not on a daily chart, then you're going to end up using something like, high D or low D, those functions.
Okay, but if it's the highest high, I guess he can just plug in the function inside the inputs, right? Like
Absolutely right. So if you were on like a 60-minute bar, let's just say, and you wanted this to be the 3-day high, right? Then you could come here and change this to high D of 3 ago, and this guy to, whoops, it's a parentheses, not a brackets, high D3 and low D3. So, and then like that. And then as long as you have that many days at least on your chart, then you can, these would be, so now the magenta and cyan lines are the high and low of 3 days ago.
Right, which is not really the highest high of the 3 periods. It's just the high.
Oh, no, that's correct. No, if you wanted the highest high of the, is he saying the high and low from the number of days ago or the highest? I'm confused.
I think I interpreted it as the highest high.
Oh, okay. I was doing the high and low of 3 days ago. No, if you wanted the highest, then it gets a little more complicated because you can't just, for example, put in the the highest function because you don't know the number of bars over which, so you want to do something like this, right? But you can't really do that because if you're on a 1 minute bar, then the number of bars would need to be more like 1200 and something.
Yeah, but
right?
You can use daily. If you use daily bars, which he is.
Oh, if he is, okay, that was the question. Okay, yeah, then it's just the highest and lowest functions. Exactly. Then you can use 3 if you're on the daily bar.
Can you show us here?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so then this guy becomes lowest,
Or-
low 3, and we'll switch back to daily bars. So then we go back to daily bars, and then you can do stuff like that, which, as Jesus says, that's kind of what we do with the price channel. So if you did I think the built-in price channel indicator, we could.
Yeah, correct. The price channel indicator would be, it's doing exactly the same thing that you're doing with a custom tool line, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And of course, the problem is the intraday chart. And as you were pointing out, John, the number of bars back. How do you know how many bars back to look to include the whatever period you want, right?
Exactly. Right.
And it's always an approximation. So for example, if you're using 60 minutes, you know that there's 6 bars per day, approximately, depending on if it's if it's not a holiday or not. And then
Correct.
when 3 days back, then you multiply, and you would have to go like 18 or 20 bars back to get the highest high or the lowest low of 3 days in an intraday, right? A 60-minute chart.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, what you would probably want to do is, instead of using highest and lowest, because of the variable amount of look back, you'd write some code that kept track of the high and low on a what we call a walk forward basis. So
I
yeah.
see. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay. We'll go to your next question, Phil, in just a moment. I'm going to take Rachan for a moment. Rachan is asking, is there a built-in function to find support resistance prices using open, high, low, close of the last X number of bars, or does it need to be created? I don't think we have anything that automatically finds support and resistance levels, because you'd have to define what support and resistance is, right?
Well, that's right. Let's just take the open. So he mentions open, high, low, and close. So I think we're thinking of something that's very similar to what we have here, except that maybe we want a custom 4 lines or something along those lines. So for example, let's say I'm just going to use custom 1 line and add it just so we can start to get a flavor of the. So just with custom 1 line, for example, let's say we wanted the open. We were saying the open of the last n bars. Then of course that's just open or O of however many bars we wanted ago. So again, that's going to move as the new bars form. And then if you could similarly do the high of n number of bars ago, the low, and if you want the highest and lowest over those periods, you can use highest and lowest. So it's very similar to the channel studies, as Jesus was mentioning.
Right. So I'm sorry, Rachan, go ahead, and you were going to say something.
I don't want to interrupt you, but feel free to finish your thought on that. And
No, go ahead, please.
so first of all, I'm new to TradeStation. I'm just moving over from interactive brokers, and I use Python there. So the thought for me here is to have some sort of an array. So I was thinking about how, if I were to write a function, how I would do it. And what I thought was, starting from the current bar going backwards, let's say 200 bar is the 200 is the value of X. So for each of the 1 bar at a time going backwards, I would look at the OHLC of each bar and see if those 4 prices have already existed in a later bar, or if I were maintaining an array, if it already exists in my array, I would just increase the weight of that price, and I would keep doing that for the entire length of, let's say, 200 bars. And the end of it, I would have an array with price and weight, and I could then sort it and plot the top, let's say 5 of those, because they have the most weight. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if you got, the gist of it, John.
Yes, I think so, but okay, so you're saying maybe you want the five highest prices over the last n bars. Is that correct?
It's not the highest I'm looking for. I'm looking for that in the last, let's say again, 200 bars, what prices have occurred most frequently.
Okay.
Right? So,
Yes. Okay, so yes, in that case, you're going to have a little coding there, and yes, you're exactly right. You would use some arrays, and as you say, as you loop back through the bars, you would be looking in the array to see whether you already had that price in the array, and then to increment the count associated with that price. So yes, I think you're on the right path. Once you start getting into that, you may want to. I always point out, of course, since you're new, that the forums, we answer questions in the forum, so the coding may get a little complicated. You sound like you've got a little coding experience, so it may not be bad, but you may get into things where you say, well, do I want to use a dynamic array or a static array? And you say, oh, well, or do I want to use a vector or an array? And that kind of thing. And then you can refer to the forum, the support forum. And, for example, if you said, well, let me make the array dynamic, but how does that work exactly? And all that kind of thing. Once you get into refinements of the code. Yeah.
You're exactly right. So that's actually precisely where I am. I wrote some code and I put it on there. I'm not sure if I put this particular code or not, but long story short, it was a little bit slow on the forum to get a response. But that's the best channel that I'm happy to continue down that path.
Okay, and make sure you're in the right area of the forum. By that, I mean the Easylanguage and TradeStation is what it's called. As long as you're in that Easylanguage area, sometimes people are in different areas of the forum, and but you got a response though. You did after a little while.
I don't remember if I got a response to this particular question.
Okay, yeah, we better double check. As long as you're in that TradeStation and Easylanguage support channel, because there are regulatory reasons that we can't reply in other channels. So, and the forum can be a little complicated, but in that TradeStation and Easylanguage support area is where we reply, the firm. Yeah. Okay.
I will do that. So one final question before I give the floor to other people.
Sure.
You mentioned I did read the manual. So there is arrays, there's dynamic arrays, and there's vectors. If you can briefly tell me if there's a reason to use vectors in this case, would that apply here better? Because it is
no, you're probably better off with arrays in this case. And the reason I say that is that the data type that you're storing is always a numeric. In this case, a double precision float. You're always storing prices, and it'll be a little faster. The code will run faster with arrays rather than a vector. Vectors are nice particularly when you don't know the data type that you're going to store, and you don't know how much data you're going to store. Then a vector is handy because it's so easily resized. Sometimes it's a little handier if you're going to insert values in the middle of it. Like you say, okay, I might want to insert a value here at position 6, and then I want to insert a value here at position 14. That kind of thing. If you get into that, then a vector comes in handy.
Understood. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Roshan. And in regards to the post that you have not received a response on, if you can send me the link to that post, I'll check to see where it's located, and if it needs to be moved, I'll move it over to the Easy Language support so that you can get a response there. Our team usually responds, very quickly. And
Yeah, that's why I was surprised, because yes, we
Yeah.
try to really get a good turnaround on the forum. So
I have noticed that when I get a response to the question, it's very fast, but other times when I don't, so maybe that's the
Oh.
reason. May I get your email address, please? Or
Sure.
however you want me to send you the.
let me put it right here in the chat so that you have it, and I can check on that for you. Let's see. All right, there you go. Excellent.
Thank you so much again.
No, you're very welcome. Very welcome. Okay, so let's go here to Phil is, and we'll take Phil's question and then we'll go to Edit. Eddie is raising his hand, but Phil is asking a question about the the question if it's doable. So what he wants to do is draw 3 boxes. And, Phil, if you want to jump in and explain, that's, that's up to you, but let me see if I can describe it. He wants to draw 3 boxes. The first box would be, he has an example. Let's say I have a buy point at 100. The box would be blue, and it would be 5% wide, indicating the buy range. The box below would be in red, which would be the stop at 5 to 7%. And the box above would be like 20 to 25%, indicating the profit target. So the question is that doable? And I think the answer to that is yes. Is it, John? What do you think?
yes. Let me just look here for something that might, I'm looking at the triangle pattern. Show me. I'm going to try to remember here if this guy, let me try a different bar interval here. There we go. Okay, so, and let me remove some of these other studies just so we can clean up the chart a little bit. Just see this triangle pattern show me. So this is a show me study. It draws these orange lines and this orange rectangle, which is intended to represent a potential offset of the size of the triangle that a person could adjust based on a projection of a price move based on this breakout marked by the magenta dot. So the reason I wanted to show that one though is just because the code for that study, let me open it, will show you how to
The show
draw
me will show you.
Yeah, that's right. The show me shows, that's correct. That's the here's a vector, by the way. So I just for our case, we were looking at, we were just a minute ago talking about using vectors. So I like to reiterate also, you can, once you've opened up the development environment, the TradeStation development environment, you can go to edit, find in files, and then do a search for anything you're looking for. If you need a coding example, so we were thinking about vectors right a minute ago. And so you could just do a find in files for the word vector, and then you'll get some results down here on the find in files tab that show you all the studies that contain the word vector, and you can look at them, and then it might help with the coding. So for example, you could see how the pushback method of a vector works to insert that kind of thing. I just, not to get sidetracked here, but anyway, that's a good way to look for code examples that I like to mention sometimes. Okay, so with this show me though, I was looking for the part where we create the rectangle.
And that's a built-in show me, right? I mean, because Phil
correct. Yeah,
as
the more I'm looking through this code, right? This is complicated as all pattern recognition. You guys probably, if you've tried to do any kind of pattern recognition, like what is a triangle, it's very easy to do with your eyes, and our eyes are able to pick out what we call patterns, but then coding what you see is becomes more and more complex, as you can tell by the nature of it, just looking at this code. So, okay, so here's the draw profit zone rectangle method. And basically we're going to create either two what we call bar number points, BN points, or two what we call date time points, DT points, and use those to why 2 points? Well, because the rectangle drawing object is specified by a upper left, lower right corners or by lower left, upper right corners. So as long as you've got two diagonally different corners, you can draw a rectangle, right? So that's the idea here. And then the let's see if okay, so then the rectangle, I see, okay. So the rectangle is this guy, temp rect, and we set the properties of that guy and add it to our collection of drawing objects on the chart. And that's how, here's where it's added to the collections of drawing objects on the chart. So you create the rectangle and you say, okay, well, what do you mean rectangle? What, where does that come from? Well, if we go back over here to the Easy Language Dictionary, we can go here to the drawing objects, sorry, EL system, drawing objects, namespace, and go down here, and there it is. So EL system dot drawing objects rectangle. This guy is our rectangle, and you can see its properties and methods here. So you end up creating one of these guys in your code, right? And then setting the appropriate properties as either DT points or BN points. And anyway, here's the BN point class. Here's the DT point class. So you create either of those and then use them to create the rectangle. I know that's a long story.
It's not easy as we can see, but it's doable. And I mean the great thing is that we have a show me already built into the platform that uses that drawing object, so we can see how it's utilized.
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, we did, when these classes were first introduced, we posted some code in the support forum that did a very simple, create a rectangle example and place it somewhere. And and that kind of code is available in the support forum, or you can just post, if you don't find it quickly, just post a question, because as I've said many times, we act like librarians in the support forum and we can point you to the right book, so to speak.
Excellent stuff. Let's go with Eddie. Eddie has his hand raised. Eddie, do you have a microphone?
Yes, I do.
Excellent, Eddie, go ahead.
Well, thank you for the explanation on the look back. With regards to your eyes, the previous question that had to do with trying to pick up support and resistance, as you noted, your eyes are readily available to look at a pattern for 200 bars back and see, well, these general locations of price seem to, be hit at certain, intervals. So you pick them out.
Yeah,
but
higher frequencies as we were talking about. Yeah.
Correct. But when you're looking back to find out when certain price points might have been pivots or points of reversal or support or resistance, being similar idea, support and resistance levels they're not exact. I I mean, if you're looking to how many times did this specific price occur, you might have been close to that price 50 times, but that exact price might have only occurred once or two. So when you're
Hence
looking back,
yeah, the idea of drawing a rectangle rather than just a line.
correct, because is that how you would kind of think about doing that? So that you're kind of, well, I'm looking for something that's in this range as previous support. And, you know, if you then could adjust that range, you could maybe iteratively zero in on something. But I don't know if you can do that automatically.
You could, it'd be code like we were talking about with an array.
Okay.
And it would get a little more complicated. The discussion though is reminded me of the stuff we talked about. When was it, Jesus? A couple weeks ago in our last class, maybe it was 3 weeks ago. But anyways, these activity bar studies, right? So, I mean, you guys are probably familiar with this, but just in case you're not, we have the let me reset some settings here on this window. I'm going to set the space to the right to 0 so we can kind of see. But we have these activity bar studies. I don't know if this is the type of thing, but you know, if you said, well, let me look here. Okay, look at all of this. You know, look at all of these. If you're looking at, and again, you can do it based on frequency or time, right? Those are so by that I mean either volume or time, really. So you could do it by how many trades went off at the price, or you could do it by how much time was spent at the price, and those can be different. But anyway, these are the activity bar studies that seem to me to be a kind of along the lines of the sort of thing we're discussing.
Thank you.
So we can go, sure, we can go in here and go to these activity bars. I was just looking at this one, volume distribution. The code's not too awfully complex, but as we talked about last time, it uses a concept that exists only in activity bars, which is the notion of an activity data stream, or data 51 on the chart, which you cannot access by the term data 51, but it's behind the scenes. That's what it is. And you set the property, I guess you have to set it once it's already on the chart. You go here, edit volume distribution. Yeah, here it is. Set the interval for the look inside. So I'm on a 30-minute chart using a 1-minute interval for activity data.
Pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
For that.
Okay.
Thank you, Eddie, for the question. There's a question here from James, and thank you for that. For strategy automation, and you know, there is a checkbox to send the order to the server, right? The stop orders to the server.
Correct.
I think that Jim is trying to say that in one of our classes, we noticed that the stop, I mean, of course, I was on the simulators. I'm not sure if that's related to maybe a hiccup on the simulator, but the stop that was submitted and it was actually an active order was not being updated based on the rules of the strategy. Have you seen cases where the stop is not updated on the server side, but it is updated on the strategy side?
Okay, if you see that, please report that. Yeah, so that's a good thing to report in the support forum, and obviously that's a bug, you know, if it occurs. So,
but if it's on the simulator, it could be also a hiccup on the simulator, right?
oh, if it's in sim, yes, it's still a problem, but I mean, it's just, of course, you're not talking real money, so it's may not cause you as severe a headache, but we still need to know, you know.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so please, you know, it's good to go through the support forum to report any issues like that, or even call, or call the trade desk, call the client services, and then we'll probably need to collect some logs. Basically, have you zip up your logs folder and send it, and then we can research. So that, I mean, especially if it obviously if it's a real trading, if we're talking about real trading, then definitely that's a call. Yeah.
So Jim, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Well, John, in particular, I was interested in, was there any cases that would, so there's essentially, I think what you're saying, John, there's essentially no cases that would ever come up that situation would happen, with our automated strategy?
Well, okay, it gets, what I would say is that it gets very complex very quickly. So, and the reason I'm saying that is because step one is your Easylanguage code. So we need to make sure, depending on your code, and let me just give you a quick, example here. First of all, let's back up a second. All right. So let's talk about what Jim, the setting that Jim's talking about. So I think it's here under properties for all. So I've got two strategies applied to the chart. Under the properties for all setting, and this gets quite complex and is again a good topic for the support forum, but let's talk about this. Stop orders, send strategy generated stop orders to the TradeStation order and execution network. And you say, well, what would even be the alternative? Well, the alternative to that is if you don't, then they're held locally on your PC and sent as triggered. So price hits your stop, the PC is going to send the order to us as opposed to holding it on our servers. So then the second option is whether it goes to the exchange or is held by our stop servers, depending on whether the exchange supports native stops. So these are the settings that we're discussing here. Okay, so I said it got complicated. The issues get complicated very quickly, and the reason is that the first step is the Easylanguage code. So let me just open something up here. Let's just take a look at this guy, stops and targets. So for example, we have a bunch of what we call built-in stops and targets. By that, I mean, instead of writing code that says, sell short or sell next bar at such and such a price stop, instead of doing that, we might use this one keyword, set stop loss, or we might use set dollar trail. These are built-in stops. What we call them built-in stops because they're by built-in, we mean you don't have to write the code. You just use that keyword in your strategy. Okay, so if you put one of these guys behind some kind of conditional, like an if statement, and that if statement is sometimes true and sometimes false, then your stop may be issued at certain times and not at others. And that's why we need to look at the Easylanguage code as a first step to saying, why wasn't the stop updated, quote unquote, right? Because this guy will update automatically as long as this condition remains true. If you put it behind some other more complex conditional, then if that condition becomes false, it won't update. So that we need to look for that sort of thing at first. And then we could get into things where potentially there's a communications. We need to start, basically we end up looking into the communications and the settings that you're using when automating.
So, hey, John, so that
Sure,
code you were just showing, so let's say that a condition was true and the stop was sent to the server, and then the condition became false. That stop would, the first stop that was sent would stay on the server, right? Because we didn't cancel.
No, that it's going to be canceled. So
Oh,
So that's an excellent point, and maybe that's related to what you're seeing. So if I write a strategy, just create simple strategy, and I say if close is less than the low of 3 bars ago, then sell next bar, low of 3 bars ago minus 0.5 stop. Maybe I do something like this, right? And the close goes below at the end of the bar when the strategy runs. And if the close is below the low of 3 bars ago, then it'll issue this stop order. However, at the close of the next bar, if the close is not below the low of 3 bars ago, it'll cancel the stop. So the fact that it issued it once, it's not like using the order bar or even order tickets in Easylanguage. The stop once issued is issued only when the strategy runs, and when the strategy runs, it calls this statement.
so, I mean, are you saying then, John, that the server stops are essentially good for only one strategy bar that's ran? In other words,
That's exactly what I'm saying. And really,
okay.
it's two different. In a sense, it doesn't matter whether you were sending the order to the stop server or not. In other words, those two, sending it to the stop server is independent of whether the order is canceled or placed. So even if we were, and the order will be, the two things don't, I understand what's happening is you're thinking, hey, since I sent that to the stop server, it's there, it's there, and it's going to stay there. And that's not the case. It doesn't matter whether it went to the stop server or not. As if this code doesn't run at the end of a given bar, this statement this is not true, and the code doesn't run at the end of a given bar, then that order will be canceled.
I got you. So we have to view, so essentially we have to view all this stuff sent to the server as if we still were doing it from our computer.
Exactly. Yes, you could think of it that way. You could
It's
think of
kind
it
of
that
like
way.
we just got an extension computer over at the server, but
Correct.
yeah.
Correct.
Oh, I got you.
That's a good way. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make sense that it works that way, because essentially you got to emulate just as if the computer was still doing the stops. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
now I understand it. I
Okay.
understand it now. Perfect. Maybe that's Jesus. Maybe that's why we had the problem.
Yeah, maybe. But even so, when the strategy sends an update, it should send it to the server, and that stop should be updated. So yeah, we were seeing that it was not doing
Correct.
it. So
On every bar, right, this price is likely to change, this stop price, just in this little example here. So as long as the condition is true, then the price should update. So what'll happen is, let's say assuming this remains true, at the close of every bar, you're probably going to have a little bit different price. So it should move, as Jesus is saying.
Gotcha. Hey, so John, if we had, let's say we had a stop right above your condition, Let's say it's the fail-safe stop. And then we have a bunch of conditions with updating that stop. Your server would always get our last conditional run, right, from top to bottom. In other words, it runs from top to bottom. So if we change the stop, let's say towards the bottom of our code, that would be the one sent to the server, correct? Or what?
No, that's an excellent point, though. It's a good question, and it comes up you know, fairly frequently as people start getting into strategy automation is, well, look here, what if I might have some code up here that says, you know, sell next bar at, you know, like he said, not minus 0.5, but just a low of 3 bars ago, which is guaranteed to be a higher price, right? So what if I had this up here? Which stop order is it going to send? And this is one of the beauties of strategy automation, is that it's gonna do the conservative thing. So by which I mean the one that's closer to the market. So this and again, this can get a little complex also, and is another good topic for the support forum, but there is a negotiation process, one could call it, of which order goes to the market when there are several issued by the, and then the good way to test this, of course, is to look in the back test at how it behaves, and you'll see how which order is chosen to be sent. But we do it automatically, and we attempt to be conservative. In other words, if it's a protective stop, to issue the higher price on a sell, that kind of thing.
Interesting. So the code doesn't just run from top to bottom and kind of send the last thing. That would be negotiated.
Correct.
Other things like in our easy code, it is top to bottom, right?
Correct.
So this is particularly to issuing orders. Okay.
That's exactly right. And the code will still run. You know, you could think of the code as still running from top to bottom, in the sense that if you had a print statement here, it would print before a print statement that was down here. In your print log, in the print log, the code's still executing in that fashion. But when it goes to place orders, it says, okay, you know, I can't play. We have competing orders, and what do I do with the competing orders? And then attempts to do the right thing. So yeah, but the best thing to do is check it in the back test to make sure.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So, hey, now with regards to these stops, this doesn't have nothing to do with like intra-bar order generation, this kind of thing, does it, or not? You know, like that, you know, like when you run your strategy, you can have the intra-bar. You know, so it runs intra-bar, like tick. Yes.
This would be affected by that. So let's, just in case people are saying, well, what does he mean by intra-bar order generation? We could go here, and if I'm not mistaken, is that also on the no, I think it's in the customized properties. Yeah, calculation. So we're customizing the strategies here. If we go to the calculation tab, we see this: enable intra-bar order generation and calculation. And again, this can get pretty complicated exactly how this works. But the idea here, just as an overview, is that strategies normally run only at the close of a bar. If for some reason we need the strategy to update tick by tick like an indicator, then we can enable intra-bar order generation to cause the strategy to run tick by tick. And once we do that, we may want to set some limits to the numbers of entries and exits that can occur within a given bar. Otherwise, we might have a case where, almost like a very rapid fire way, we're meeting a condition, not meeting it, not meeting it, and the strategy would go in and out, in and out, in and out. We don't want that usually. So we have some limits we could set here. So it's this setting that he's talking about with intra-bar order generation. And then what the effect would be on a strategy like this is that the this value, the close, would not wait for the end of the bar to evaluate that. In real time, the close is the current price. If you're updating this strategy tick by tick, as soon as the close goes below the low of 3 bars ago, not at the end of the bar, but intra bar, when the close goes below the low of the 3 bars ago, we're going to issue the stop. So as written, normally under normal conditions, where the close could go below the low of 3. It depends on where the close is relative to the low of 3 bars ago at the close of the bar, whether this order gets issued. So normally in intra-bar order generation, as soon as this close goes below the low of 3 bars ago, it'll issue the order.
But it could cancel it on the very next tick, right?
Absolutely, exactly right. So what we're headed toward here, let's just discuss this a little bit. Okay. I'm going to create an intrabar persist variable called my condition, or my cond for short, and set it to false. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if my cond if close is less than the low of 3 bars ago, then my cond is true. I'm going to set it to true when my sort of stop trigger occurs. And then I'll go here and say if my cond then issue. So this way we act as sort of a we lock in the fact that the close went below 3 bars ago by setting an intrabar persist variable to true, and we're going to keep issuing this order regardless then. So then we'll need a little code to set it back to false. So it'd be something like if market position, we actually, it get a little complicated. What we would need to do is set the my cond back to false once the trade was completed. So we could use market position. I mean, okay. If market position equals 0, then, and I'm going to change how I set my cond in a minute, but okay, then my cond is back to false. Okay, and up here, I need to change this a little bit. If I need to say if market position equals 1, meaning that we're long. If we're long and the close goes below 3, then we set my cond to true, right? And we maintain, it'll be maintained as true until market position goes back to 0 or flat, at which point we'll assume the stop got executed in this case, or a profit target could have gotten executed, but we went back to a market position of 0, then we can set it back to false.
Nice. Thanks a lot for going through that. Makes sense.
You're welcome.
All right, so I think we've covered all the questions here. So thank you everyone who participated and submitted a question, and thank you, John, for your great explanations.
You're welcome. Anytime.
We're going to call it a day. Thank you everyone for joining Masterclass today. In a couple of weeks, we'll do another Easy Language Answered. So look out for that. And thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.